Water is becoming a catalyst for confrontation around the world. But in Corridor 39 countries, the problem is graver. Most countries in our region of focus are on alert for chronic water shortages. Some experts fear water shortages can be trigger points for not only internal instability, but also war between nations. Today's program spotlights the hydro hotspots in the Corridor 39 belt and observes how these conflicts are unfolding. We have several guests in the studio, but firstly, Hassan Mashadi, international security expert from Tehran, who will give us an overview of the regional water dilemma. Hassan, thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Alan.
Hassan, can you please share with us some of the hydro flashpoints of the Corridor 39 region?
The political experts and security analysts in the region quite often talk about the problem of water scarcity in the region and the fact that this problem may lead to future wars in the region. However, in the recent past, this problem has become aggravated because of a number of reasons. So one is that the scarcity of water, overpopulation, migration, climate change, and other elements associated with nature, the cycle of 3-year drought in the region, and also the fact that with economic and social upheavals and changes in the region, there are less management of water, and that leads to more and more problems.
And where are these flashpoints specifically?
I can say almost in every part of the Middle East you can see one way or another, some of them more aggravated, more problematic, and some others less. For example, one can refer to the Turkish, Syrian, and Iraqi problems of the harnessing the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, that the Turks are planning to build dams and have started that, and that leads to less water for Syria and also less water to Iraq. So there have been already problems in that region between Israel and Jordan and Lebanon, between Iran with Iraq on the Shatt al-Arab waterway that led to the war also in 1980 between the two countries. Between Iran and Afghanistan on harnessing the border rivers, as well as between Afghanistan and Tajikistan, while Tajikistan is rich in water resources, but Afghanistan needs quite a lot of those water. And if Tajikistan as planned starts building more dams, then that will also lead to problems for Afghanistan.
So you can say about 4 trigger areas. I mean, we have the Tigris-Euphrates River Basin, Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, Iran, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and the Fergana Valley. Correct?
Yeah.
Now, what makes these conflicts, these Corridor 39 conflicts, what makes this different from the other water security problems globally?